So, my near-death experience happened multiple times throughout my life. I've had it 3 times happen to me. When I was 3 years old, I got ran over by a car. So it was the same day that my biological father had got sentenced to 35 years in prison. And I was out in the parking lot with my uncle who raised me, who I call Dad, playing a little game where I would hit him 3 times, take a few steps back. He would hit me a few times and take a few steps back. We was doing this game, and I hit him a few times and took a few steps back. And when I did, there was an SUV coming through the parking lot. It turned out to be a 17-year-old boy that was, I guess, upset because the way court had went that day. And he was going, they said, around 25 to 30 miles an hour through the parking lot. Well, my dad said, or my uncle said that I took my 3 steps back, and within a flash of his eyes, I was gone. This car just hit me, I was gone. And he couldn't even believe it. But he looked, and this car didn't even know that it hit me. So it rolled me up in its wheel, and it dragged me about 30 feet before my old man, my uncle, my dad, that I call my dad and my uncle. I call him old man, so for this story's sake, so you know the difference between him and my biological father, my old man. So my old man finally caught up to this car. This boy stopped him and immediately was so angry, grabbed the door, ripped it open, and grabbed the boy by his throat, pulled him out of the car, and was about to start hitting him. And then he looked down at me and seen that I was laying there. I had no cuts on me or anything, no marks. I just had tire marks from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, everywhere. So he dropped him, ran over, grabbed me, picked me up, and an old man yelled at him and said, "Don't touch that boy, leave him alone." And my old man said, "You shut up, this is my boy, and I'm taking him to the hospital." And so he gets me in the car and he lays me in his lap. And he says that throughout this time, the only thing that I'm complaining about, or any noise at all that I've made so far, was while he was driving. And I was telling him that he was hurting me. I was saying, "Please let me go, please, old man, or please, you're hurting me, you're hurting me." And he was telling me, "No, I didn't hurt you, Bobo," because he calls me Bobo. And he said, "I'm not hurting you, you just got ran over, it's okay, I got you, we're going to the hospital." And then, I faded out. And we get to the hospital, and there's this cop there. And I'll never forget this cop, because the only thing they said I was crying about throughout this whole thing, the only thing I cried about was when I got to the hospital. They had to cut my shirt off immediately, and I was crying my eyes out because that was one of my favorite shirts, I guess, and they had cut it off. And now it seems so silly, but as a kid, that was the most important thing in that whole situation. And so I get there, or this cop's there, and he sees all this. He sees I'm just tore up about this shirt, and to him it's probably not, he probably don't even remember to this day, but he gave me enough money to buy another shirt, and I've to this day never forgot that. And he don't understand how important that was to me. But as I'm in there in surgery and getting scans done, my old man, my aunt who raised me, I call her Abby, they were outside with the whole church group. There's like 30 people in the waiting room from the church, and they're all in there just praying away. Well, the doctor first comes out, and he says, his collarbone's broken, his stomach and his insides of his stomach, his organs have just been messed and turned and shifted completely around, and his arm is broken. And they refused to accept that. They said, "No, do more tests. We don't accept that. Do more tests." We're like, "Well, we got to anyways, so just stay here." And they kept praying real hard, and they came back and they said, "We don't know what's going on, but we did more scans, and he doesn't have a broke arm, but he's got a broke collarbone, and his stomach's still messed up." So they're like, "We're going to do more scans to make sure that we're not missing something." And they keep doing scans, and they come back, and they say, "Well, there's nothing wrong with his stomach." And it turns out his collarbone's not broken, it's just fractured. And so through all this, I get rolled up in this wheel, dragged for 30 feet by this SUV, and the only thing I had was a fractured collarbone. That's it. I walked out of there with a sling, just my arm in a sling, and that was it. And God definitely, He literally changed my my body in between each scan. Just because the power of prayer and the power of love and the power of God, it's amazing. It's something I never forget, and it stuck with me forever. But yeah, he definitely saved my life there. And my next near-death experience, is fast forward to when I was 21 years old. I was on drugs really bad, and I had lived a rough life. I grew up in a family full of drug addicts, and it's just what my life turned out to be the same at the time. And so I was 21, I'm on drugs really bad. I had then lost all my friends, is either in prison or dead or gone and somewhere, and I'm by myself. It's my 21st birthday, and you know, I'm broken. I'm at rock bottom. And my brother-in-law, he messaged me, and he says, I got something I need you to try. And so I had already been on some crack for a few days and been up for days, and you know, when I go meet him, he says, you know, I got this stuff and I want you to try, and it turned out to be shake and bake meth. And it was in a little bag that was called Santa's Coal. I'll never forget that bag because it changed my life. And I stayed in there at their house for days. They didn't do it. They just made it and wanted me to try it. It was their test dummy. And I'm trying, I'm doing it, but I'm bad on it. Like, I don't know how to do a little of anything. I do extreme. Everything I'm 0 or 100. That's it. And so I'm doing it. I end up being awake for 21 days. Altogether, between the time I was awake before I came there to the time that stuff would not let me go to sleep. And if you've ever been awake for that long, or for more than 3 to 5 days, then you know after the third day, you lose control of your mind as far as being able to control your body. You're not able to go to sleep. You're not able to rest. You're not able to eat. You're not able to do none of the essentials your body needs to stay alive. It's like you're on autopilot and you're in the back seat and somebody else is driving your body, and there's nothing you can do. And 21 days of this, and then I remember my sister and brother-in-law went to bed, and I'm sitting in the living room, and I go to do more of the meth, and when I did, I looked up, and spiders start shooting out of the ceiling. I mean, this is as real as my hand is right here to me now. Like, spiders were coming out of the ceiling, covering all the walls, coming down for me. I jump up, and I start screaming bloody murder. And my sister comes busting in there, my brother-in-law, and she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, oh my God, there's spiders everywhere. Help me. And she's trying to get me to understand there's no spiders. And as she's saying this, I look down at the coffee table, and there's 3 demon dogs. They were like shadow, but they were real at the same time, and they were very evil, and they were all 3 connected to the coffee table. So half their bodies was being connected to that, and that was the only thing stopping them from being able to fully get to me, but they're trying to tear into me so much. And now by this time I'm screaming bloody murder, and my sister is dragging me out of the house and to put me into the car, and she gets me in the car, and as we're driving down the road, she forgets to buckle me in there and lock the door, and she's just panicking trying to drive, and I see 3 demons, plain as day. I mean, like what I would perceive as demons. They were solid black. They had these huge, I guess like the thing you would picture, you know, a sickle, whatever it was. They had them. They were solid black. They were coming right for the vehicle, and I'm screaming. I'm like, they're coming right at us. And she wouldn't believe me, so I opened the car door and I went to jump out, and she grabbed me by the hair of the head and pulled me back in and locked the door and put my seatbelt over me. And I literally felt them go through me. I felt them go through me, and the pain from what it would feel like if something would go through you at that size. And so we get to the hospital, and as we go in, I see the same thing with the spiders. The whole hospital on the inside is just covered in spiders. And I'm screaming, and they come running over there, and they grab me, and they put me down, and they strap me down on this hospital bed. And then I feel like I'm in the ocean. The whole bed turns into the ocean, and I feel like I'm being drowned. and I'm just in the ocean. I'm screaming, help me, please. And they come rushing in there and they hit me with a bunch of Ativan. And that's the last thing I remember. Not that I went to sleep, it just made me start speedballing, and I went from being a panicked hallucination or seeing all this stuff to not remembering and being calm about it. And they just kept giving it to me because it was keeping me calm. And my stepdad came over there and told him, hey, you got to stop giving this stuff to him, or you're speedballing him. You're going to make him die. And the only reason he knew that is because he done drugs. He knew how dangerous speedballing was. But they kept giving it to me, and they're telling me all these stories of stuff that I'm saying. You know, later on they tell me the stuff that I see. Like I see my old man standing at the window. I start screaming at him, get down, we're in a war zone. What's wrong with you? Can't you see that we're in an elementary school right now and this place is going down? There's bullet holes everywhere. They're ripping through everywhere. Get down. And then another point, my brother, my big brother is sitting in the bed beside me, and he said that I started screaming that there was Smurfs all over my body and they were tearing my body down. And of course I know this is all tied to the drugs, but I don't know what's reality and what's not anymore. But at this time I don't remember none of this because of all the Ativan. When I came to, I had been released from the hospital apparently, and we was at Thanksgiving at my sister's. I still got a picture of this same day, and my Aunt Affy that was holding me in the picture, you can see the pain on her eyes from everything. And mine, I was blank. I was completely blank. You know, I kept this picture. I do it before and after because I've been clean now for 10 years. And I do it before and after with that picture and now. And it's amazing, the difference. But I guess when I got there, I came to and I remember this. And I went to the bathroom. My brother-in-law showed me where I had hid some of the meth before. He had hid some of the meth for me that I had left over before after I went to the hospital. And so I'd done some. And then I don't remember anything from that. I came to and I'm in a rehab facility. And then fast forward 2 months later, past that, I'm walking down the road, and as I'm walking down the road, I started hitchhiking. I just had left my Aunt Affy's house, and, you know, I'm about 2 miles down the road from her house. And then I stick my thumb out, you know, I'm hitchhiking, and this woman stops and picks me up. And I get in the car with her, and we're driving down the road, and she's giving me a ride where I need to go in her direction. And as we are not even a half a mile down the road, blue lights pop up behind us. And as she's pulling over, she's like, damn it, I don't even got a license. And she throws this bottle in front of me. And I look down and I see these little bead cuts all over. I immediately recognized what they were because I was a drug addict. They were Roxy 30s. If you don't know what that is, that's oxycodone 30 milligram. So it's a very strong, powerful pill. One is a very strong, powerful pill. There were 62 of them in there. I found out later on, but I picked up the bottle, and immediately my thought was, eat them. And I ate every single one of them. I grabbed her sweet tea, and I drank and, you know, eating them. I get them all down, I throw the bottle down, and she looked at me, and her eyes were just huge. And she said, there were 62 Roxy 30s in there. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not going to prison for something that's not mine. I'm sorry, that's a life sentence in the state of Virginia. And I'm not going to prison for the rest of my life for something that's not mine. If they would have been mine, this might have been different, but no. And so I was fine with that. I don't know why I had this piece with it, because we were standing there, and the cop had got the pill bottle on my side of it. As these cops are doing this thorough search, me and her standing back here. And on my side, the passenger side, he's got that empty bottle sitting up there on the hood with the lid off of it that he found. And he just keeps looking at me. And then on this side, they got her purse out, and they had 2 or 3 Roxys that they had pulled out of the purse and found and sit up beside her purse. And I started getting sick, and I looked at the cop, and I was like, I got a really bad stomach virus. You might want to call the hospital and the ambulance now. And he knew that. He didn't know what I did, what I took, or anything, but he knew from this bottle you found what was happening. So he calls the ambulance. The ambulance show up, and I'm a drug addict, and these 2 people in the ambulance, I guess, didn't really see anything to do for me. They just sit on the other side of the ambulance, and I sit on this side, and I asked them if I could use your cell phone. They said, yeah. So I called my old man and Affy, my aunt, and I was like, I'm going to die. I ate 62 Roxy 30s, and I'm crying my eyes out. They're crying, and I'm like, please get to the hospital as fast as you can. I don't want to die alone. I want you to be with me when I die, please. And so they, of course, meet me at the hospital, or they come rushing, they hang up, and they're flying at the hospital. I get to the hospital, and there's 6 cops around me, and they're hounding me, trying to figure out where these drugs come from. Tell me where the drugs come from that I took. And, of course, I'm just ignoring them. I'm coming up with stuff. I told them I was at an ex-girlfriend's house, and I think she put something in my drink, my beer. I'm coming up with all this stuff, and I decide I'm gonna fake a seizure so they leave me alone. And so I go to fake the seizure, and I guess I really have one. And that's the last thing I remember at that point. And then my old man says he comes in the door, and he's running down the ER. He's looking for me, and he sees these cops. And see, he's also a recovering addict. He's been clean for over 20 years. He does like Celebrate Recoveries, drug rehab groups, and all the cops around here knew him really well because he worked with them, and they all really respected him and appreciated him for the stuff that he does for the community. And they seen him running around. They're like, Randy, what are you doing? Who are you looking for? He's like, he sees past him, he sees me, pushed by him, and he runs in there, and he's like, this is my boy. And he's just holding me. He picks me up and he's holding me because he sees all these tubes in my throat, or in my nose. I got the thing going in my neck. I got tubes, or IVs, everything's hooked up to me. And I guess he just breaks down crying. And they say, this is your boy? And he just ignores them. And they go out, and they come back after they talk. And they come in and say, can we talk to you for a minute? And he was like, I don't want to leave my boy. He said, look, Randy, we respect you so much. What we was waiting on is if he didn't die, we're pumping. They done pumped his stomach, and everything that we find in his stomach, we was going to charge him with possession of what was in his stomach if he survived. And since this is your boy, which I didn't know they do that. That was crazy. But they said, since this is your boy, we're just going to let this one go. And we really hope that he survives. And they said, God bless, and they left. And the only thing I remember for the next few days is they were giving me these shots of adrenaline because my respiratory rate would get down to 2. And they would say, these big, huge syringes, too. I would come to, and they would be pushing this big syringe into me. And I would be screaming because my head felt like it was going to explode. Just like, wow! And I was just be screaming and begging and pleading just to please stop pushing it in me. Please, please, not beg. The old man would tell him to stop, and after you tell him to stop, and they say, we can't, your respiratory rate's 2. We have to give you these shots of adrenaline to keep you alive. It's the only thing keeping your heart beating. You die, we give you these shots of adrenaline every hour it's happening. We have to give you this every hour because you're dying every hour on us. And I don't remember anything, and I truly believe to this day that something happened in those 3 days when I would die multiple times, and I just don't remember. But I know every time I would wake up to a shot of adrenaline being pushed in me, and because after they give me a shot of adrenaline, there was so much drugs in my system that I would only stay awake long enough to be like, for like 1 minute. So I'd go to say a word, something to the old man after they got done, and after it calmed down a little bit, and I'd go to say something to him, and I'd fall straight to sleep. And this happened for 3 days until they were finally, I was able to stay awake for an hour at a time. I was able to stay awake finally for 2 hours until finally they gave me that last shot on the 3rd day, and I could just stay awake. Well, the counselor there came and talked to me, and they're like, we're not letting you leave here. We're sending you to a rehab, and we're not going to let you leave until we do. And they couldn't get me a bed in the rehab, and they were so mad about it that they just kicked me out of the hospital that day. And I went home, and I remember looking in the mirror. My pupils were pinpoint. I was still super, super high from these drugs. And I did not need to be released yet. But, they were really mad that I couldn't go to rehab and that they had to release, I don't know what it was, but they released me. And I remember going home just still so high and couldn't believe that I was alive, that I had actually survived all that. And it was crazy, but God has been with me my whole life in many, many, many situations. And I have wanted to share my stories for a long time, And I've been watching a lot of near-death experiences on YouTube and a lot of stories, and they resonate with me so much. And I just feel like there was more to these experiences I had that I'm not understanding, and I really, really, really want to understand what happened to me during those 3 times that I died, and I don't remember. And I believe there was something extraordinary that happened to me. Either way there was, because all 3 of those things brought me closer to God. I know that. I felt way closer to God from all 3 of those things. Even when I was a kid. Especially when I was a kid. But that's my story for now. But my name is Roger Hunnell. I'm from Virginia, a town called Tazewell, Virginia, and USA. And if you've listened this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been through something like this or know anything about this stuff, please reach out to me in the comments so I could talk to you and help me. Maybe you can help me understand more about my situation that I don't even understand and that I have buried for all these years, because I'm almost 33. I'll be 33 in February, and I want to understand it more. Either way, I know that I'm still alive because of God, because of Jesus, because pure love and pure perfectness. But thanks for listening. I'll see you later.